So here's how you make a tiki torch wine bottle. You're going to need a bottle that has the labels removed. For the purpose of this demonstration, this is going to work just fine. You're going to need your rope. You are going to need your glue gun and a couple other things that I'll say or mention here in just a minute. So you're going to be wrapping the rope starting from the bottom all the way around pretty tight. You can have small gaps here and there, but for the most part you want that to be, for each of these spirals, you want them to each be flush with each other. I would say they go up more than halfway. I mean, definitely it's by the time when it starts to curve, you know you've got enough rope on there. So the most important thing about the wrapping is to make sure that the very bottom one has plenty of glue. That's going to be your base, so you want to make sure that that's really, really secure. So as I go through, make sure this is pretty untangled. I'm going to take my glue. I'm going to adhere a little bit to the bottom in a couple spots. Not around the whole thing just yet, because hot glue dries very, very quickly, and by the time you were able to get around, it would be dry already. So now I'm going to go ahead and take this and place it directly on the area where my hot glue is, being careful not to touch the hot glue, because that can burn. It does not feel good. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap it a little bit, but not too much. I want to go ahead and make sure this gets glued some more. So adding a little bit more. Wrap that. A little bit more. This is almost all the way at the bottom. Not enough that it's going to interfere with it laying on the table properly, but enough that it's not really showing a lot of the bottom. So then it's pretty much all the way around. I'm going to bring it up one, and I'm going to spiral it. But if I were just to continue to spiral this, it really wouldn't stay put. So what I'm going to do before I start spiraling it around is I'm going to add glue to, I don't know, about a half an inch, 3/4 of an inch upward. So just applied it right there in a stripe, like a vertical stripe of glue. I'm going to go ahead and wrap that around a couple of times. It's not going to take long. I'm just making sure there's no gaps, or any very little gap anyway, between each one. And then pretty soon I've reached the top of that little stripe of glue. To make sure it's secure on all sides, the next little stripe of glue I'm going to put is going to be on the other side. So now I'll get another nice little half an inch blob of glue. And as I wrap this around, each spiral is laying on top of that small amount of glue. You just keep going and you keep going until you reach, like I said, maybe to the point where it starts to curve. Now when you do get to the end, in order to make it look nice, you're going to need a pair of scissors. You're just going to snip off that little bit. Use a spot of glue at the end, and then make sure it's laying down pretty flat. Again, being sure that you're not like touching that hot glue as you do that, because that can burn and that really hurts. To get for the inside, you're going to be using gravel to fill up probably, looks like I've got it maybe about halfway up to where the rope is. You'll know where to fill it up, because when you put your tiki wick in the bottle, you need that to be hanging out about an inch or about an inch and a half, I'd say. And the bottom of your wick should be touching the gravel, so that's going to hold that up. To get your gravel, you're just simply going to make a little, oh, I left it over here. You're just going to make a little funnel with a piece of cardstock and a piece of tape. You can place that in your bottle and simply pour the gravel in. You'll need to shake it a little bit. If you were just to lift that up, you're going to end up with gravel all over the floor. So make sure you shake it a little bit to loosen up all the pieces that are in the funnel before you pull that out. And then, of course, just repeat that process until it's high enough that the wick is sticking up about 1.5 inches. So then, final piece of this is you get your wick and also your hose coupling, and you can just thread it through. Doesn't really matter which end you thread it through. I usually thread it through the more narrow end first, and just kind of push your way. You're going to put it in the bottle, and it's going to stay. The purpose of this is to get the wick to stay, but the gravel will help with that as well. But the main purpose of this is so that when you do go through later on to fill this with your tiki fluid that you can get really at any hardware store, you're not going to end up getting that all over your hands. This is a really easy way to keep the wick in place and to keep it in there. So that is it as far as making your tiki torches.